Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg. I'm continuing my series on James Tiptree Jr., also known as Alice Sheldon, with Happiness is a Warm Spaceship. Happiness is a Warm Spaceship is a very interesting novelette length story. So it's longer than a short story, but shorter than a novel. It got published in If magazine in November 1969. And I have read it in this very nice tour collection titled Meet Me at Infinity, The Uncollected Tiptree, Fiction and Nonfiction. Very good book. Love the John Harris illustration on the cover. Not that old, so I was able to get a hold of a practically new copy for dirt cheap online. And really enjoyed the story. The Happiness is a Warm Spaceship has a little bit of an interesting history. Before Alice Sheldon started writing and publishing, she became a Star Trek fan. She saw Star Trek on TV when it premiered, and she was an avid Star Trek fan. Even was one of the people who wrote into the studio when they canceled it, trying to keep it on the air. So she had the idea for this story, and she wanted to make this a whole series. And they even, in Meet Me at Infinity, at the end of the story, they even have her notes of the I think it's 9 following stories that she had hoped to write in this series. So she wrote Happiness is a Warm Spaceship as kind of a take on Star Trek, but the way it was a take on Star Trek was to kind of change the story a little bit. Instead of having, she thought Mr. Spock was the first real alien ever in science fiction. And she really liked Mr. Spock, but for her story, she did the what if. What if it's the human that is the only human on a spaceship full of aliens? And she writes the story from that standpoint. A young officer in the Space Patrol gets assigned to this little spaceship, this little patrol ship, and he is the son of a very high-up officer. And this very high-up officer, he doesn't believe in integrating humans and aliens in spaceship crews. But his son disagrees with that. His son is all for the integration of crews. So he's excited to get this assignment where I think there's one other human on the ship, 1 or 2 other humans on the ship, but otherwise it's an all-alien crew. And so right off the bat, he gets on the ship and nothing is what he expects. Nobody's following the rules. The aliens are all really weird and difficult to get along with. The engineer back in the, what would be the equivalent of Scotty is just impossible to deal with and seems to be running the ship. The captain has to plead with him to get him to start the engines and get going. So a lot of just really weird characters and a lot of Space Patrol protocols and rules that are not being adhered to. And so he has a hard time fitting into this. And they do go to a planet where they find that there are these aliens that are attacking the planet. And the captain doesn't want to follow protocols. He wants to do this other, desperate maneuver. And, the lead character, the human, Quent, I believe was his name, he's just appalled that nothing is by the book. In this tense situation, he sees where it is necessary. Just kind of fly by the seat of your pants because no help is coming soon enough, and they don't have much of any firepower to go up against these aliens, but they're the ones that are there, and these aliens are actually killing people on the planet. By the end of the story, Quent kind of comes around to see things the aliens' way and understands why they're not going by the book and why they aren't really for integration. It's a good story. I'm not going to say it, I'm not going to list this as a top tale. I don't think it was that good, but it was a very good story. And I really, really, really regret that we never, ever got the rest of that series. The synopses in it sound spectacular. Tiptree has a very unique kind of humor that's infused in this story, and it's infused in the plots for the other stories that she hoped to write. It's really, really too bad that she never did sit down and do those stories. We lost a lot. And I think the reason she didn't is because Happiness is a Warm Spaceship, she had a really hard time selling it. Nobody wanted to buy it. John Campbell rejected it. Frederick Pohl rejected it. She finally did place it with If magazine when Jacobson took over, but everybody else was turning it down, and it did not even get nominated for Hugo or Nebula or Locus. So it didn't go over well, but I don't understand why. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a good, especially if you're a Trekkie, especially if you're a Tiptree fan, this is a solid story. It's a good story. The characters are wonderful. It's got some action and some politics, and it's just very interesting. It's a wonderful story. I think it's recommended. It doesn't quite make a top tale, but otherwise I recommend it. If you like science fiction, if you like Star Trek, if you like Tiptree, if you like 1970s science fiction, this is a good story for you. It's very excellent writing too. Have you ever read Happiness is a Warm Spaceship? If so, leave your comments. Other thoughts about Tiptree at this stage in her career, leave those comments too. I would love to hear them. And, I want them in a public forum because I want everybody, if you have some insight into James Tiptree, I want everybody to be able to read it and see it. I don't want to put it in private messages or off in a Discord thing that you have to sign up separately for, or in our Patreon account. I don't want to do it that way. I want it right in the comments on the YouTube video where everybody watching the video can see and maybe learn from what you have to say about James Tiptree and Happiness is a Warm Spaceship. Let's do that. I will be here continuing to do these stories. The next Tiptree on my list is I'm Too Big But I Love to Play. That's the next one I've got listed to do. And so I'll be here doing these. And I hope you'll come back and watch me.